Good morning, everyone. Glad to see you. What a beautiful day. Here it's going to be hot today. I'm grateful. I don't look forward to the cold. Welcome to IT Leaders. My name is Doug Thies. I am the Director of National Strategy with Expedient. I've been here 7 years. IT Leaders is wrapping up its 6th year. After this meeting, we have one more meeting in November. Remember, we're a bi-monthly peer group for directors and managers, which are the most neglected leadership roles in all of IT and most engineering disciplines, frankly. And then CIOs and VPs of IT are welcome. We let them show up when they want to. This group is about performing quality assurance on your career, on the leadership side of your career. There's plenty of places you can get technical support, right? Let's learn about a new piece of software. That's not why we're here, or some IT strategy. We're here about dealing with the people that we lead and doing the best job we can do. 3 focuses when we started 6 years ago: networking, mentorship, and leadership development skills. That hasn't changed. That still continues. Bathrooms on the left, on your left, right over here. If you need to leave early, look for Bob Carter, who's standing back there, who just waved, red tag, or me. I can let you out early, or you can walk up to the door there and press the button on the call box and they can buzz you out. Either way, if you need to leave before 10 a.m. And my mobile number is up there and here. You can text me. I would love for you to take pictures if you can. I have a slide about that. I thought it was next. Just to remind you that we record these events. Our great videographer, Eric Fedge, a son of one of our longtime attendees, has been doing video for the entirety of this year. If you need a videographer for one of your events, I would encourage you to employ Eric because he does great work. I really like what the output has been. These events get recorded and then posted on Expedient's YouTube channel. Where they land may change next year. We're actually working out some details to make the content available to members of IT Leaders. So I'm still working through the details on that. We do not live stream. And the reason we don't live stream is so you can't watch this in your pajamas. You need to be in the room, right? If you really want to develop your leadership skills, you need to network with other people who are doing the same work. Misery loves company is one of the terms for networking, and it's one of the values, frankly. The check-in procedures are a little more arduous than they were before COVID. We use the Envoy check-in system. You got an email over the weekend to allow you to prepare and not have to wait in line to check in so badly. So take advantage of that. Upload your data and your picture, and it's a lot faster on the check-in. Jonathan Bird's, same great catering, good biscuits and gravy, good rolls, and plenty of hot coffee for those of us who care about that sort of thing. Please take a couple of pictures of our speakers and of the event today, and you can text those to me at 317-502-7622, or you can post them to your social media at #ITLeadersIndy. It's good for people to see what these meetings are like. I think it's easier for them to come if they've never been before, if they can see that it's a casual, relaxed atmosphere. How to stay informed on what we're doing. There's a couple of different ways. itleaders.org is the easiest. We have a page for the Indianapolis event, itleaders.org/Indianapolis. We also have a page for the new Louisville event, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is a week from today down in Louisville, and I'm super excited about that. They've got the same problem we do. Nobody's really helping directors and managers develop their leadership skills. So we've got about 50 people signed up for that one, and it's at the Yum Brands event. I'll talk about that in a minute. We also have a LinkedIn, what's called a company page, IT Leaders Indianapolis. And if you've seen my social media posts, I use it as a way to amplify what's going on for the next meeting. I would encourage you to follow IT Leaders Indianapolis on LinkedIn. That way you'll get kind of a ping reminder about what's going on. I post probably about 4 or 5 times for the events every other month. So just a reminder on who's speaking and what's going on. And then we have a LinkedIn group as well, also called IT Leaders Indianapolis. The logo is slightly different, just so that you know, but this is a way that you can communicate with each other. We curate the membership of that, so we don't allow service providers and vendors in there other than me to allow you to communicate, what do you think about this vendor, et cetera. The company page was put together by Rusty Maynard. I expected Rusty here today, but he said he had a fire that he had to put out this morning at work. Really appreciate the work he's done over time. If you see posts on leadership on the IT Leaders company page on LinkedIn, chances are that it's Rusty who posted those. Also, if you have events that you want to show off, I'm happy to post those on the LinkedIn company page so we can amplify your help locally with those meetings. Focused mostly on leadership. Private group, vendor validation, hiring and retention, leadership questions. That's for you to communicate with each other. Indy CIO Network uses a listserv. We use the LinkedIn company page. Our mentorship program has been up and running since we started, and it's self-service. I've got a one-pager that you can request directly from me, and it is focused on you getting your vision or hallucination of a career path together, and updating your LinkedIn profile so it looks like you've looked at it in the last 5 years, and then checking in with one of the dozen mentors that have volunteered, communicating with them via LinkedIn. You agree to have 3 dates. If there's chemistry, you can continue on with that mentorship. If not, you can try one of the other mentors. So very easy. And if you've got any questions about that, feel free to ask me. But if you're interested in that one pager, that self-service model, just reach out to me. This is a part that's about you. Who has open positions in their organization that they're looking to fill? Anybody in that spot? Dave?
Yeah. Synoptis, we're always hiring Salesforce developers. Need to have at least a PD1.
Okay. So if you know of any Salesforce developers, or if you're interested, if you have friends, or if you're one of those, please reach out to Dave. Who else? Al?
Yeah, First Bank Richmond, Indiana. We've got a IT support specialist, networking position open.
Great, thanks, Al. Anybody else? Jeremy?
Rex Hybrids, DevOps engineer, rancher, Kubernetes environment.
Thank you, Jeremy. Glad to see you. Anybody else? Who's looking for their next role? Anyone? Chris?
Yeah, I just came off a CIO role, so I'm looking for something similar.
Leadership role?
What's that?
Leadership role?
Yeah. Something in this area would be great, but we'd like to move south if it's warmer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you've got a background in financial services, but you're not limiting your scope to that at this point. Okay, great, thank you. We've put together a lot of matches in this group. We call it the Yenta of IT leadership, so we hope we can help again. IT Leadership Boot Camp starts Tuesday, a week from today here in Indianapolis. We've got a small cohort. Lou couldn't make it this morning, but she will be teaching that. 4 4-hour sessions right here in this room. Here's the content: self-awareness, social awareness, strategy and politics, and your leadership brand. Those are the 4 things that she covers. A lot of DISC assessments and really navel gazing up front to make sure that you know who you are. Some 360 assessments so that you can see if who you know you are matches up with what everybody else thinks, and then match. There's Rusty. Hey, Rusty. Great program. A lot of people have been through that over the years, and this is the first in-person one since COVID started waning. So I would encourage you, if this is a good role, it's easily the best $975 you could spend on leadership training. This is market-wise, it's worth about double that on the open market, and Lou's fabulous. I have got a bunch of upcoming events, so please pay attention on this, and if you're interested, take a picture of the links associated with this. A week from today, the IT Leaders Louisville Peer Group is going to start. We're doing a science experiment down there with a virtually identical format to what we have here. And we've got two great speakers, Eric Satterley of Bellarmine University, talking about getting yourself emotionally and intellectually ready for change, because we all know that change is accelerating. And then Brad Clark from Centric Consulting, who leads their People and Change group, talking about conversational intelligence, which I'm really excited about that one. And Eric's going to be recording that one as well, so you don't have to drive 100 miles south to take advantage of that. We've got about 50 people signed up, so I'm really hoping that we achieve some sort of critical mass and we can do quarterly meetings down there. Remember, our meetings in Indy are bi-monthly, so we have 6 meetings, and we've done that forever. I expect we'll do quarterly in Louisville if the interest is there to do that. So if you have friends who are in southern Indiana or Louisville that you can recommend that are in who might benefit from this group, please recommend it to them. itleaders.org/Louisville. Indy CIO Network Dinner. If you are the top dog in your IT organization at your company, you are welcome to come to the Indy CIO Network Dinner. We're hosting our 7th annual dinner right in this room on the evening of October 4th. There's the link. So if you want to come to that, take a picture. If you're not the top dog and would still like to attend, no vendors, no service providers, but again, if you're a director or think you could benefit, our digital strategist, Expedient's digital strategist, Jim Gehring, who's a good friend of mine, and I are going to be discussing complexity and the additional complexity that the cloud brings along. And it's really a discussion. It's really more about, we're just going to be facilitating conversations between, I've only got about 25 spots on that, and 10 of those are full right now. So I would encourage you to come to this meeting if you're in town. It's always been great. Jonathan Birds caters it. The food is fabulous. So you're welcome to come if you're the leader, if you're the top dog, or if you've got interest in attending just because you'd like to hear about it. Casual happy hour, yeah. Wings and beer and pizza at Ale Emporium. I didn't write that down on this slide, I think. But this is the link for the happy hour on October 27th. That is a Thursday, just before Halloween, 3 o'clock to 6 p.m. at Ale Emporium in Castleton. Castleton, not North, Castleton. We will be there. You're all invited to come to this. This is going to be a fun event. Centric is footing the bill for it, and no sales pitch, nothing like that, just IT leaders getting together. I'm also going to advertise this through the Indy CIO network. We're just trying to get together and appreciate each other with no leadership topics, with no technology topics, just getting together and hanging out. And if you've never had Ale Emporium's Hermanaki wings, then you absolutely, positively have to come. The final IT Leaders bi-monthly peer group, this meeting, except in November, is the 3rd Tuesday in November. It is November 15th, 8 to 10 a.m., just as it always is here locally. I've got 2 fabulous speakers, again, to close out. Dimple Shah, who just joined Optum a few weeks ago. She's going to be talking about how diverse are you and your team, and what the practical benefits of diversity are across the team. Everybody talks about diversity, and it seems, I hear some people talk about it as a tired subject. I've never been on a team that didn't benefit from diversity. The teams I have been on that were not diverse, have often suffered from their own weight and capabilities. So Dimple's view on this is fascinating, and she's going to bring an agile capital A approach to the problem as well, and she's delightful. If any of you know Nirav Shah, who has spoken to IT leaders in the past and who's the CIO of Republic Airways, Nirav says that Dimple is the CIO of his household and the chief operations officer of everything, pretty much in his life and in his family's life. So she's really something. Glenn Keller is going to be a repeat speaker. He spoke the second year of IT leaders, and he's really going to be talking about your leadership capabilities. Are they working all the time? He's got a really cool presentation that's going to be using military leaders in World War II as examples, and how different circumstances really tested and showed weakness in otherwise stellar leadership careers. Glenn is a great speaker. I would encourage you to come to that too. I think many of you know him already, so that should be good. That sign-up sheet should be up tomorrow or the next day. I'm getting a little bit faster about refreshing that, so thanks to my great marketing team. Other events, Ken.
Yeah, hi, and thank you for this opportunity, Doug. So my name is Ken Versa. I'm an IT manager at Nelnet, but I'm able to organize a software development conference called Indy. It's October 19th. We cover all aspects of software development. It's at the 502 East Event Center. It's also catered by Jonathan Bird. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's close to here.
Yeah, so we cover all aspects of software development, DevOps, cybersecurity, architecture. It's a great training opportunity for your IT development staff. It's like $199, so it's just insanely cheap. I have a schedule printout, and it's over there. So if any of you want to check that out, I definitely would love you to do that. We also have sponsorship opportunities. So if you're looking to recruit software developers, we're expecting 250 to 300 attendees. So we have a vendor area. So you can ask me about that if you are interested in that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Leading Light Awards, Darcy Lee wasn't able to make it this morning. The Women in High Tech Leading Light Awards happens every other year. It's October 6th in the evening this year. I would highly encourage you to see what amazing work that Women in High Tech and Leading Light Awards are doing. They give a ton of scholarships to women who are in STEM, all branches. A lot of science and technology, as well as information technologies. I love the event. It's at the Indiana Roof Ballroom, which is one of the coolest venues in all of Indianapolis. So I would highly encourage you not only to join Women in High Tech, yes, I'm a member, and Expedient has sponsored them forever. However, I just think the work that they do continues to be amazing. Anything else? Any other events that we should talk about before we move on to our great speakers? All right. I just want to express a little gratitude, like I always do, to Expedient, who has, for 6 years running now, allowed me to spend my time and their money putting this leadership program together. I was a manager and a director at Methodist Hospital 150 years ago, and I remember being promoted from an individual contributor to a crappy manager. And while they had generic leadership programs, they were really more management programs. They really didn't address what leadership is all about. So I knew there was a gap when I started with Expedient, and we developed that. Expedient has been doing co-location or high-tech landlord for 22 years. We've been doing VMware-based cloud now for almost 15 years, and we're one of the largest in the country. And most of our work right now is focused on using those tools plus a few others to drive the complexity out of multi-cloud issues. So most clients these days have stuff in AWS and stuff in Azure and stuff on-prem, and the complexity associated with that is outlandish. And that's really where we're helping clients. So if that's of interest to you, I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Expedient.com, we're 14 data centers in 10 cities. Thanks to them for underwriting this event. Today's speakers, our first speaker is Mike Benzie, who's the founder of Benzie and Company. I met Mike about 5 years ago, I guess it was now. We sat across from each other in a workshop, and I see him on Sundays out at the fort running in the woods like I do. He's going to be talking about employee experience. And then Dennis Cuffle, who I've known for many, many years and who works at Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana, is going to be talking about how role models and mentorship have such an outsized impact on people's careers and maybe how you can be a little bit more deliberate on that. We'll get started with Mike here. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are we doing? So, like Doug said, I'm a consultant founder, i.e., I work for myself. Doug, can I steal the clicker? Thanks, man. Two, I teach at Butler in their evening MBA program. And three, I run sometimes a lot with Doug running into Doug. So that means, a few things that apply today. If you don't like running, this session should not cause you pain, right? So if it causes you pain, please raise your hand. Two, I shouldn't be lecturing. Hopefully we can get into some back and forth on this. And three, I'm also a father of three. If you have kids at home, you're not in charge. I am not in charge today. This is your session. So, but we are going to talk about the employee experience, which I think is pretty important, right now. This isn't going to be about theory. I am not going to predict what is going to happen in the next 3 months, 6 months, 3 years. I have no idea. I stopped predicting that stuff. But hopefully what you can take out of this is just things that you can take back to your organization. If you're a manager, if you're a director, you're typically working with HR, you're within a large system. There are things that might feel out of your control. Hopefully today gives you an opportunity to feel like you have some control in terms of how you recruit, how you attract candidates, and how you develop them throughout the employee experience. Fair? Before I begin, I saw a lot of great conversations, so I'm excited about that. Real quick, take 1 minute. Talk about one thing that your company does really well for your employees when it comes to the employee experience. Maybe how you recruit, how you onboard, how you develop employees. Just one thing at your table. We'll do that for just 60 seconds. Go.
I think staying roughly in that area.
And I'm curious, did you hear something new? Did it make you think of something? I heard of a buzzword, Great Resignation, over at that table, so. What'd you hear?
One of those things was talking to the new employees. That first 6 months is they're still getting their feet underneath them to understand where things are. So finding out where they are, what's going on, they don't know where something is. Direct them to the right person that owns that stuff, or to the right location to get that stuff to help them just feel welcome and at home.
I love it. Dicey?
I should say, he mentioned his last company is one-on-one.
Yeah.
Very regular one-on-one, and recently, I know I've struggled putting that time together for my direct reports, and recently just we're going to block schedule, get it recurring every month, make sure we spend that one-on-one time.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
We talked, so my company has unlimited PTO, and we were talking about how that's a race to the bottom. Lots of companies are doing that. Well, I have unlimited PTO, which means I have no PTO. But Synoptis, my CTO talks to developers every quarter and goes, you need to take a week off this quarter. So it's unlimited with a 4-week minimum. So we get sort of pissy with them if they work more than a quarter without taking a week off.
Yeah, no, that's so great. That's so great. And what I love about this presentation is that you learn so many new things about what other companies are doing. And that's kind of the context for today. I'm not going to give you any great prediction here or insights, but more of just hopefully things that you can think about applying back at your organization within your team. Why this topic? Obviously, right? We're struggling. Everybody has at least one open position. I'm trying to get my car into the shop. They said we'll see you in a month, right? So it is tough, right? And this isn't anything new either, right? If you look at this trend, yes, COVID had a big impact. Yes, we're going through something, but this has been going on for a while. This isn't something new in terms of needing to find people, needing to keep people. Another challenge, right? We're continuing trying to engage employees. And if we look at this graph, yes, things have gone up some, but it's really not that great. My wife's in healthcare, and she finally saw this slide, and she's like, "Can you believe 2/3 of employees are not engaged at work?" It's like, it blew her mind, right? And you say that out loud, it's like, gosh, that's just awful. And also another competition is just, things are so easy in some places. I can buy razors, I can order dinner for my family, for all 5 of us. It comes, I know where the person is in terms of how it's getting delivered. But when it comes to HR, when it comes to onboarding even, it kind of feels like this, right? And I think a lot of the reaction that I see leaders trying to do is to throw stuff at employees, right? Maybe it's ping pong tables, maybe it's beer in the break room, whatever that is. But I think we see that too, like a limited PTO, it kind of backfires in a way. Employees are getting pissed, right, if you start changing their stuff. And so rather than focusing on those things, how might we just kind of make sure that we're talking to employees, having one-on-ones, right? Those small things can really add up to make sure it's not just about recruitment and retention, but more about an employee experience throughout time. I always like to start with the recruitment piece. I'm old enough where, yes, I remember applying to jobs through a newspaper. I remember posting jobs in a newspaper. And I still see that strategy taking place today, in that maybe it's not the newspaper, but we always kind of focus on, well, I'm just going to throw out a job ad on ZipRecruiter, on Indeed, and hope that for the best. It's really, you have to do a whole lot more. What's that?
We were just laughing about, we remember that on the Sunday papers sitting
Right.
down and
Yeah, no,
That whole-
absolutely. No, I'm with you. I did the same thing, so absolutely. So rather than just kind of copy and paste your job description and make it into a job posting, try and tell a story. Write a story about what a typical day is like. Tell about what are they actually going to accomplish within the first 6 months, within the first year. What will they really focus on so that it attracts people to the posting? Take away job constraints that are holding people back. Degrees are number one in terms of what I see clients looking at. Do people really need bachelor's degrees? Experience is second. No, I know we're going to that route, aren't we now, right? Do we really need it? Do we need a degree when we're looking for so many different roles, right? But it is something that employers are having good luck in terms of opening up candidate pools as far as how they're looking at candidates. If you're a manager, if you're a director, how are you putting the word out? A lot of times I see employers just focus on HR. Maybe they get out a posting a month, but how are you staying active on social media? Doug is a great person to get advice on in terms of how he stays active on social media, in terms of just what are you doing, what team events are you doing, even posting a video in terms of how you're talking to the team. I should not be up here, right? If you are running a team, you have a whole lot more experience running a team than I do over the last 10 years. Get up there, speak, blog. I do joke about driving for Uber. I've got a president of a company. It's only about 50 employees. But he'll drive for Uber, 1 for golf money, but 2 because he loves to talk to people. He's hired 2 people on his Uber route. So, wow. Hey, if you like that, if you like to golf, if you need that golf money, it is an option. Make sure you're sharing job opportunities internally before externally. This isn't a have to do, this is a nice to do, right? Let people know what you're trying to hire for. Give them an opportunity to at least express interest. It might allow you to have a conversation about their development and how they can get there. Follow up to people. If somebody makes a referral, make sure you close the loop. Hey, we hired this person, we didn't hire this person. Don't leave people hanging, either the person who's made the referral or the actual referee. When it comes to recruitment, what success have you all had? What are things that you've tried these last couple of years?
So we've been pretty successful in recruiting solopreneurs. So Salesforce developers are unicorns. Salesforce's internal statistics are for every 6 open jobs, there's 1 developer.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of the Great Resignation, people went out and threw up their shingle and thought the money would just flow in. So I work on LinkedIn. I look for the solopreneurs who start, oh man, I hate sales, or this is, or just lost a big client, and I'm like, so hey, how's that? What if you could work in an environment that's nimble, like working for yourself, but gave you benefits? paycheck.
Yeah, and you didn't have to sell. That's
Yeah.
great. Do you have to know IT? That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we
Right. Good idea.
I mean, we've got three solopreneurs who have
That's
left
awesome.
and joined Synoptis, and they love it.
That's great. Yes, sir.
I would say, so we were having people decline our job offers, and that was foreign to me. So started observing how people were interviewing, and so really had to teach our team, don't just focus on technical skills, and also once you find someone, when you're going through the conversation that you like, you have to have that sales pitch, and it has to be polished. So
That's great.
we worked on, training our managers to be better interviewers.
Yeah.
And then also working with the agencies. Everyone works with the agencies. We asked the agencies, okay, tell us the sales pitch, and describe the job. What are you saying to these people when you're talking to them? So we had to coach the agency a little bit. So just improving that whole process from recruiters to the interview process has made a big difference.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love it. Yeah, looking at it like a process. If you're not getting candidates in the door, right? If they're declining, yeah, there's something wrong, and really piecing it and being intentional on it. That's great. That's great. Yes, sir.
Our biggest success has been through referrals. And to get referrals, you have to build up a network and be part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I do in my new role is building that community around experts in our industry. And we don't always focus on all the technical stuff. It's more about building the relationships in a lot of ways. And through that, you get the best minds of what you're doing, and you get their referrals as well. And you can ping that close group of people, develop trust with them, and then they're more willing to go out there and put their neck up and say, hey, yes, I have this guy that I think would be really good for what you're looking for.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Perfect. I love it. Yes, sir. In the back.
Yeah, we have some good relationships in the universities, and so within those departments and also the student groups, so we have kind of almost like a little speakers bureau where we know those professors can reach out to us if they need a speaker for the class.
Great.
Or agency, it gets the word out, and not just to the new graduates, but especially those departments that have really strong alumni associations.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Yes, sir.
So I've noticed, like with our development teams that are sort of using more modern software development methodologies, like doing microservices, Kubernetes, things like that. Like we have a much greater success at bringing people in versus our legacy teams, which really struggle to find people. Like I think developers and IT people in general like to work on that cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can kind of show yourself as like a modern cutting edge, company, that really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. Cool. Great suggestions. Great suggestions. After getting the person in the door, we have to actually put them through an onboarding process. I always say for onboarding, it really is a process. I love this stat in that the more that you have something structured when it comes to onboarding, the more likely they're going to stay for the longer term. And so these aren't complicated things. These are stuff like sending an itinerary on the first day, even the first week before somebody starts. Right? Even before they walk in the door, lay out what the week will look like for them. Give them clear insight. Oh, I forgot this is in there. This one costs some money. This one isn't free. But similar in terms of thinking about, how do we kind of make sure that people are taking their PTO? There's companies that I work with where they're actually very intentional with, before that employee starts, they make sure that, hey, we don't need you to stop working on Friday and come in on Monday. Take time, refresh, come in ready to go, because we are going to get you through an onboarding process that's intense.
Do they pay them?
I'm sorry?
Do they pay the employees to take that gap?
I have one company who does that.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Right?
If you pay for it.
Right. How do you like that idea, though? Pay them? You're good with that? Okay, cool. Yeah, but yeah, you pay them for that week, and they're down. Yeah, exactly. Let them come in refreshed. Lunch, most important meal of the day, especially on the first day. Make sure take people out to lunch, right? Get the team together, make it fun. So many times I see new hires sitting there at lunch, or maybe their manager isn't there on their first day. Having it intentional, making sure the little things are set up. It's just so basic, and make sure.
How do you deal with a distributed company?
I'm sorry?
How do you deal with a distributed company?
Tell me more.
Remote work.
Oh, remote?
Scattered all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a company, they've been remote even before COVID. And so what they do, they have the entire company, they open it up to everybody and say, come on in, we've got a new hire. They send, like with DoorDash, everybody gets a gift card, they'll pay for it, in terms of, buy your own lunch, bring it in, whatever you want to do, and they coordinate it that way.
Oh, so it's like a virtual lunch?
Yeah, virtual lunch,
Okay.
yeah.
Because there is no come in to where.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
Okay,
No,
come to my
absolutely.
house.
Yeah. No, oh, sorry. Yeah. Come in, sit down at your desk, open up your monitor, turn on the video and have it done. Yeah, thank you. Does anybody else do any other ideas though for remote folks?
One was cool. I've been with the company, my current company, 18 months, and one of the things that they do is, I was telling these guys, they sent a nice box of goodies. They're all Indiana themed, right? Because not everybody's from Indiana.
Mhm.
Welcome to the company, blah blah blah. That was kind of nice. But then when we come on board, the CIO leadership meets with all the new employees. There's like a monthly meeting, and then we have a monthly thing with all of IT, and then they always introduce all the new employees and have them talk about themselves. So it kind of makes it feel like that lunch thing,
Yeah.
And because the people are spread out, not just because we're remote, but also because we have a lot of sites, right?
Mhm.
You can't have everybody together, so that's always cool.
Cool.
Seeing that happen.
I like it. That's great. Doug.
Just one thing to amplify these points. We understand you're not the HR department, but these are things you can implement in the IT group that you don't, you can ask forgiveness rather than permission from the HR department and get a really great experience that is not dependent on the whole organization. So just remember that you've got a lot of power to create an incredible experience for your employees.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great reminder. Thank you. And similarly, just letting your team know somebody's starting, right? Send a picture, send a little bit of information about them. Don't let it be the day of where they realize, oh wow, we have somebody new on the team. Make sure you give the team the heads up. Have stuff set up if it's remote, be a little bit proactive. I have a client with the remote employees. When they post that job opening, they actually start planning for the equipment that they'll need. Do they need a laptop? Do they need certain equipment? Can we have that prepared, ready to go so that we're not rushing in the last 2 weeks or how much ever time that person starts? One-on-one, so important. There's some great research around if you have a one-on-one with your new hire in that first week, it leads to that new hire having an increased network and feeling like a greater sense of belonging. They're able to have higher quality meetings because they're actually able to kind of see the example that's given in terms of that one-on-one. And they spend more time collaborating with others. You're giving them permission that this is how we do things here by meeting with them quickly. Create a buddy program. I've got a client where the most recent new hire actually leads the onboarding process for the new hire. So they'll actually go through the same steps, creates a little bit of a buddy system for them, almost a mentorship as well, if you want to call it that. So that both employees have more power in terms of being able to connect with the organization in a greater way. I also see a lot of mistakes with onboarding. Sometimes we just kind of cram in 1 day, maybe 2 days with all the information, all the forms, all the benefit stuff, knock it all out, and then yay, we're done. When in reality, getting people to work quickly is most important to get them feeling like they belong, that they're connected, they're involved. A lot of the things that are important can wait for the first week, the next second week, even later that month. Think about how you can spread that out so that you are creating more touches with that employee throughout their first 30 to 90 days. I use this term, one, because I like the comic, but two, because I think when it comes to bonding, it's as difficult in thinking about the word engagement, right? It's so soft, squishy. If you think about how you bond with products, a lot of times I see a lot of Starbucks in the room in terms of the products that we develop with. Everybody connects with those differently, but also especially with what we've been through the last couple of years, when it comes to engagement, we don't always have to think about making employees happy. It typically is about how do we help people solve problems? How do we help reduce frustrations? This is a really this has a lot of good information, but really just in terms of thinking about the top reasons for quitting, again, lack of career development, compensation, but then you get into uncaring leaders, lack of meaningful work, bad work expectations. All of those things can be solved by having conversations, by thinking about how are we connecting and understanding where those frustrations lie. So to get at those, I have companies that they still use the struggle box. If you're a Ted Lasso fan, right, you can decorate it however you want. But keep it simple. Make sure that employees feel like that they can give feedback, they can say what's wrong, and don't worry about putting a name to it. It can be anonymous. We're not looking for solutions, we're looking for problems. What are frustrations, what can we solve? If you want to go a little bit more technical, try a survey, right? Sometimes HR leads this. I know a lot of directors that I coach, they'll actually put a small feedback survey together for their team and use that. They might work with HR to do that, but making sure that you're asking for feedback in that way. And then even more important, do something with it, right? Show what you heard, show what you're doing about it, and share that with the rest of the team. If you're okay with old school, thank you notes go a long way. Thank people for what they've done. This is taking from a former PepsiCo CEO. She would write thank you notes not to the employees, but to the employees' family, to thank them for what they've done and the contribution, maybe some late nights, especially if you're dealing with implementations and whatnot. Being able to thank them, right, for the sacrifices. There's so much more engagement and bonding that goes in with that connection at home.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
So with that one, thanking
Yeah.
their spouses.
Yeah.
A trick that I use is when I meet somebody's spouse, all I do is talk to the spouse about how important that employee is to our organization. Do that by loyalty.
Yeah, right.
Because you're like, for the people who are here, do your wife or husband think that you're important at your work? Right? They really don't care. When I meet somebody's spouse, like my wife doesn't, she doesn't care. And I don't, right? But if I meet your spouse, they are so essential to the and talk about the successes they've done. Man, that person's beaming.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. That's so great. Any other things that you do, your company does, when it comes to recognizing, asking for feedback?
I was going to build on that, but what's also good to do is if you meet their family, also tell their kids. So it's great to work with their mom or dad, with their grandparents.
Yeah.
Similar concept.
Yeah, no, that's great.
We send stuff twice for the kids' birthdays.
Oh, that's great.
My assistant does it, but.
But it gets done. Yeah, done.
We implemented 15.5 about a year ago.
Great.
But the thing I like about that software as a service package is that we can give high fives to any of the employees in the organization. So, my marketing team is amazing at helping me put this event together every other month. So I make sure I give them credit. The guy who prints out the badges in the morning, it's those little things that make a huge difference. And coming from peers often has a lot more meaning than it does from your leader.
Yeah, yeah. Doug, do you want to put in a quick 30-second plug for 15.5 in case folks don't know what that tool is?
It's an amazing software package. It's a framework for weekly check-ins with your boss. And we use it as a, what'd you get done this week, what are you planning on next week? Plus, it's a way for us to also map what a weekly check-in with your boss is specifically. So it's a good place to keep yourself honest on the work that you're doing, along with making sure that your boss knows that you're not twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Thank you. And then I used to call this retention, back in the day when I started HR, right? And I never liked the word, right? Retention always kind of, like you're stuck, you're put in place, right? You don't move. I don't think that's what employees are asking for, especially with the last graph as far as why people leave. It's the lack of career development. And so not everybody wants to become a manager. Not everybody should be a manager. So it's thinking about how do we continue to grow them, prepare them in different ways. Simple ways to do it, probably not in your control, but if you have control, I always recommend ditch the review or the rating within the review. It takes away the air in the conversation. If you thought they did a wonderful job, but HR said you had to give them a 3 out of 5, right? It takes the air out of the conversation. Yeah, we've all been there. Think about how you can take the weight off that number and put more emphasis in terms of the story, the conversation on the performance for the year. Put together a mentor program. I won't steal any thunder later on, but thinking in terms of how do you use not only internal folks, but external folks that you know. This is a great network opportunity for that as far as giving opportunity for growth. Flexible schedules, I always have to mention it, in case people are against that. I work with a manufacturing company, which is the last place I always thought I'd see flexible schedules. But they actually give the power to the employees to set their own schedule. They know they've got about a 2 to 3 week lead time in terms of what they know they need to get done. So they're able to kind of, schedule it in terms of who needs to get a kid off a bus, who needs to, be home for a soccer game. Being able to schedule it that way, they're able to get it done in manufacturing, and it's just a great opportunity to think about when do employees work their best during the day and where. Looking at professional development, I think, continues to be an opportunity. If you think about the challenge around well-being for employees over the last 2 years, I'm seeing more companies offer counseling in terms of under that professional development umbrella. How are we helping folks with their own well-being beyond just sending them for certifications and helping them in terms of that broader sense? Back to the one-on-ones, making sure that we are doing those touch bases. I always say at least bi-weekly. If you can do it more, that's great, but at least every other week. And even if you can get in 30 minutes, just breaking it down in terms of in the first 10 minutes, make sure the employee knows what they need to discuss, have them come prepared, right? Have them actually try to own the meeting. The next 10 minutes, you get to ask for updates, and then the final 10 minutes, you're focusing on the future and moving forward. And then always asking, what's one thing that I can do to make your experience better? As a leader, it's so important for employees to hear that, right? You're constantly getting feedback. You're not waiting for a larger corporate survey, but that you're having that conversation and bringing that into the experience as well. Around development, anything that you all do and or struggle with in that topic?
I was just going to say that last one. I asked 2 questions. Is there something I should start doing? And probably more important, is there something I should stop doing?
That's great.
That I don't know. Is there a blind spot in something I'm doing that
Yeah.
people don't like, or it's
Yeah.
slowing things down? I don't even know.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do employees respond to those questions, do you feel? Do you get
Usually,
feedback?
yeah. Usually, I think it takes a little while to feel comfortable to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm big on, I was doing weekly one-on-ones with
Great.
my direct reports.
Great.
That's really important to me. So having done that for a while, and I don't ask that every week.
Yeah, right.
But every once in a while, I'll be like, hey, and then they feel more open and trust that they can tell me honestly.
I love it. Awesome.
So-
Thank you. Yes, sir.
One of my clients, so I do executive leadership coaching, and one of my clients actually hires me as an executive coach for all of their new hires.
That's
Like,
great.
they're not even in management, and they're like, why am I meeting with you? And I say, well, because they see potential in you. And they put me with them for 6 months, every one of their new hires.
Yeah.
So, we don't do that, one of my clients does that, but that's freaking amazing, for communicating the value to an employee. One of the things we do internally is we pay for certification attempts. We don't, so a lot of companies say, oh, well, if you pass the certification, we'll reimburse you.
Yeah.
Some of those tests are expensive, and then you've got the added pressure of, am I really ready? Can I risk this $600? Our employee, they say, hey, I'd like to take this certification. I'm like, okay, go. Here's a credit card, just pay for it. And whether they pass or not, whether they attempt a dozen times, I really don't, $600 to them means a lot. $600 to my company is chicken feed. And we've blown past our competition on accumulated certifications. Like a like-sized competitor of ours has 16 internal certifications. We have 40. So, and they're our next nearest. So
Yeah.
we're destroying them.
Yeah. No, that's great.
I've heard a huge trend about skip level meetings in IT organizations, directors meeting with their direct reports, employees on a fairly regular basis. That's quite popular, and it seems to be extremely effective.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yes, sir.
On the feedback that you were talking about, and being, asking for what should I not be doing, one of the things that I found make people comfortable is letting them understand that this is probably, in a lot of ways, more beneficial to me as a manager than it is to them as an employee. I find that in a lot of cases with mentorship, if you can get them to understand the fact that their feedback makes you better at what you're doing, and it requires you to really think about your methodology, your approach. It's kind of the idea of it takes a lot to teach a person kind of mentality. So this helps me be better as much as it may help me get them to open up.
I learned from some great managers I worked for that, to show that you care about your employee and really care about them. I used to start my meetings, well, let's talk about all the things we got to go, right? But now it's always about how are you doing, how's your family, and you can kind of get a little, and I hate to call it small talk, it's not really small talk, it's trying to go below the surface of number one, better understand who they are, what their family, what their situation is, get them to know you a little bit, right? So you show some authenticity, right? Yeah. And then you learn more about what's important to them in their lives and how to connect, right? And then get them into business, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes, the meeting becomes a quick catch up on those kind of things, then move into business.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I love it. I always say just put 2 to 5 minutes on the agenda, right? Just for that, right? And be able to move
But
on.
it has to be authentic too,
Yes.
It's not like check the box.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. That's
Well,
great.
it helps to understand where your employees are at from a mental standpoint too. So maybe they're struggling right now and you're seeing it in work. It gives you some context.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
One of the things that has worked for me in the past is just working as best I could to establish this. There's this concept called psychological safety, right? It's getting to the employee to the point where, there's trust between us. They feel comfortable to say, hey, stop doing this because it bugs the crap out of me. Okay, great. I'll never get that feedback, even if I ask for it, unless they feel like it's safe to say those things. And if I can get to that point, then there's a dialogue and it starts to work.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, you're opening the door for that safety. That's great.
Mike,
I want to be mindful
so
of time. Yeah, thank you everybody. This was a blast. So yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
How did you get here? It's an open-ended question. On one level, you could say, what's the trajectory of your career? I graduated from high school. I started this point with my career. I went from here and here and here, and here was my progression. That's a valid answer. It could also mean I started as a programmer or a technician. I learned these skills. I learned these languages. I built on that. I accumulated more and more knowledge, and now I'm an expert in such and such. You could also say I drove my car. Okay? It's a really nice car. And I actually have an attached garage that the car fits in. It's a nice house. I have a great family that's in the house. And by the way, we got back from a wonderful vacation from this exotic place. That's also a valid answer. How did you get here? So when we look and say, all of us are leaders, okay? All of us are in IT. We've developed and mastered a career over a number of years. It's been intentional. It's not an accident, and it's been multifaceted. We've been very intentional about the path we've taken to get to our title. We've been intentional about the skills that we've developed. We've also had to be intentional about how do we keep our home life in balance so that it allows us to be gone late or it rejuvenates us when we've had tough days. We have to have family and friends and kids and parents that love us and care for us to allow us to do the work that we do every day. The purpose of this discussion is to explore how we've blazed our own trail and how we've cut our own career path, and to take a moment to recognize the benefits that we've gained from others as we've used them as people, as mentors, role models, encouragers, and then sometimes they've been protagonists. unfortunately, or fortunately, some of our best lessons come from the people that have been most difficult to us. As we look at the question from several angles, how did I get here? We also want to pause and ask, how are we helping and encouraging those around us blaze their own trail in today's world? Mike gave us incredible examples about how to do that in today's environment. And we'll come back to some of those in a moment. How many people here consider themselves a teacher? Okay, that's awesome. Okay, what do you teach?
As a father, I'm teaching my kids a number of things, but then as a manager, teaching them balance and learning how to prioritize things at work as well.
Right.
Then also just teaching, like I said, my family how to tie the shoes, how to make breakfast, even the simple technical
those
things.
Simple, yes.
But have to be done, as well as how to talk to others, how to have some empathy for others.
Yes, yes,
as well.
those are important. Somebody else raise their hand?
Yeah.
What do you teach?
Similar. My kids are older, a couple out of school, and we've had more like adulting kind of teaching moments about you got to rent an apartment, you're starting a new job,
Right.
buying your first house. We've just been in this mode for months in that part with our kids, and it's like we lived through all that somehow. And we didn't have quite the same support from our parents, my wife and I. So trying to help them not do it the way we were telling, but just explaining this is the kind of things to look out for, and let them make the decision. That's been, I mean, literally, that's been more important than work stuff right now.
Right. So, with the positions we hold, people are watching us. They are learning what we are exhibiting in terms of our behavior, our roles, and with this topic, how did we get here? It's broad. We're going to have many more questions than answers today. We're actually going to find that some of this is going to be something that we recognize throughout the rest of the day and the rest of the week in terms of how did we get here. I am going to ask that you kind of look at the past for a moment. I want to go back 40 years, plus or minus, and think about what the technologies were 40 years ago. What were the computer names? What was the size of the computers? What were the stats on them? What was the memory? What was the cost? What were the languages? What were the games, if there were any? What was considered advanced technology? So as I rattled that off, what came to mind? TRS-80. What else? Commodore. What else?
System 370s.
370s?
Apple II.
Apple II. 3090s, Sperry Burroughs.
Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail, yeah. What else?
Vax BMS.
Vax, yes. So when many of us started our careers, those were the technologies. Those were the leading technologies. Those were the new technologies. Those were the cutting edge. So when many of us started, that's what we cut our teeth on. So I started my career at RCA Consumer Electronics down on Sherman in Michigan. It was 1981. I was a programmer. I was doing COBOL. And it was a 3080 computer, which we later upgraded to the 3090. So I'm going to ask you guys to pull out your phones for a moment, okay? Open up email. So you're going to send this email to yourself. And I want you to think, when you started your career, who were the people that were guiding you? Whether they knew it, or maybe you didn't recognize they were guiding you at the time. But who were your mentors? Who were your role models? Who was it that was helping you figure out what a good career path would be? Who was helping you figure out what the technologies of tomorrow would be most valuable? Who was helping you with your family life? How to navigate things like relationships or money. Who was around you helping? They can be friends and family. They can be teachers and coaches, bosses or peers. mentors or professional coaches, industry or technical experts, counselors or health experts. They might even be celebrities, professional athletes, public figures. Some could be fictional characters. Some might be spiritual or religious guides, and some are absolutely protagonists and doubters. There's a number of people there. And when we look at, and I'm going to kind of direct this question to more of the 45-year and plus crowd. What happened when you graduated from high school? What were your interests and constraints? What was your personal objective after high school? Did you go into college? Did you go into the military? Did you start working? Did you start a family? What is it that you started with? How long did you stay? So, the 45 and older, okay, when you left, how many went to college? How many went to the military? How many started a family? So when we go back that far, there were a number of things that people did, and who was the advice you were hearing from? So when you went to college, who were you listening to?
I had a favorite professor at Ball State. I actually started a couple years early when I was still in high school, and had a professor there who I really liked in the computer science department, and he helped kind of guide me. He's the one who taught the one database class that Ball State had that kind of led to the career I've had for 30 years.
The one class, the one database class. Because that's all you needed back then, was just one database class. That was all you needed.
That was all the data we had.
Yeah, it's all the data, yes, it was. It fit on the TRS-80, yeah. Who else? Who was around you when you were making those decisions?
My parents. My father believed in work ethic above all. He grew up dirt poor and just never stopped teaching me to work harder than the guy who was sitting next to me or the person who was sitting next to me to make sure that I had an opportunity when times got lean.
Yep. So speeding up a little bit, when we look at our first, our initial professional careers, what were those work environments like? What was it like when we started understanding what culture meant? What were the tools and technologies? What were the training? What were the problems we were trying to solve? What were the industries we were learning? What were the skills we were developing? Was our path for the technology, was it intentional or was it just circumstantial? Was it just that was what was available? So when we take a look and say, how did we start learning our trade? You've mentioned database. What are other aspects that people have chosen, whether it's networking, development, security? What is it? Any volunteers? So when you started your career, yes?
Well, as a I'm a non-technologist in the room. I kind of came up through technology, a little different path. But initially, business operations. So how I could operationalize processes and start to automate processes was kind of how I started my career path.
Right. So the operations aspect.
Yes.
Was it intentional, or was that what was in front of you?
It was what was in front of me, but I actually, I took a lot of direction from my business law, and I enjoyed business law. I enjoyed my business operations courses. I majored in business in high school, and I did take computer programming in high school as well, but that wasn't the path that I really, that wasn't for me. So, we putting business and communications, foreign language, and those things together just kind of led me down the path of any job that I held would have a technology component to it, and it would have a need for looking at processes and automating.
Good. What else? What did other people choose?
I saw a huge need for custom application development early on, and self-taught app dev. You know, that was back when computers did one thing at a time.
Wow.
It was quite a bit
Wow.
different. But I wrote probably 30, 40 applications as an employee and as a, you know, on side hustles, just because there was such a pressing need and it was so early in the evolution of.
So you recognized the need and went after that. So you recognize this technology could solve that problem.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh. That was very intentional. Yeah.
Networking path.
Networking path.
Initially because it presented itself, it was in front of me. And then grew with that.
Right, right. What was the first networking you did?
Oh, goodness. It was 3Com hubs,
Uh-huh.
10 meg hubs, and worried about broadcast storms. You know?
Right. It was. And what did that lead to?
Oh, goodness. Through manufacturing industry, then public safety, and now private, a private family-owned company. And through, you know, advanced network engineering, multi-state, wide area networks, that kind of thing.
Who encouraged you along the way?
You know, that first job early on had an incredible manager that gave opportunity and encouraged, and even when I mess up, was you know, great in correction, not really punishment or any other you know, negative aspect, but great in correction and encouragement. And early on, it was the training, the go to professional skill certification type of training was really the drive there, gave opportunity there as well.
That non-punishment is important, because if we punish people when they make mistakes or when things don't work, we teach people to clam up and not try. So that is an important.
And I look back at the things I did, holy cow. What I know now and looking back, man, what crazy mistakes, and the things I didn't know at the time that I know now, how awful I did.
Right, right. One more. What's something else somebody chose technically? How did you get your career started?
I started as a general contractor, was brought on about a week later after meeting my boss and mentor in a certification class. Got the job because I was the only person in the room paying attention and asking questions. But about 2 weeks in, working at a healthcare organization, I had Citrix dropped in my lap. He's like, here you go, this is Citrix. This is what our medical record billing software runs on. Have fun.
Right.
And 20 years later, I'm still working at User Compute. I love it. Yeah, when I got it, I was like, what the hell is Citrus?
But do you think it was that eagerness that you had, the questions you were asking?
Yeah, I mean, I really had a love for technology, breaking things apart, building it back.
Right.
The thing that I learned most about it, though, is it just led me to where I'm at now, is the concept of building tools that people can use and focusing on the people and their experience,
right,
and giving them flexibility. So, we hit the pandemic, and I'm like, oh man, here we are. We're available for remote work anywhere, anytime, on any device.
Right.
And building an environment of trust with your end users, and focusing on their experience as much as anything as a metric for success. So
good, good. So now then, we're going to take a look at kind of people 45 and younger in terms of. Let's talk about kind of today's technology. So what are today's current technologies? What are the computer names? What are the sizes? What are the stacks? What are the costs? What are the languages? What are the games? What's considered advanced technology? You can just throw them out.
On the development side, containers and serverless are the hot technologies. Don't need those terrible infrastructure people anymore. I'll do it on my own.
Computers are called AWS, Azure, and Salesforce.
Get your virtual reality, right, for games, which will look at your phone.
Right.
And augmented reality now too.
So when we look at the change in technology, okay, lessons that I'm going to say an older group had to learn is going to be framed by the technology available. So what are today's lessons that the younger people in IT need to learn? What is it that people coming in are going to be interested? I've been teaching at Marian University for 13 years, part-time. And when I started, I wanted to tell them everything. Here's what you need to know. I wanted to get the finger out. And I wanted to give lectures about you need to know this and this and this and this. And I found that I couldn't lose people quicker by that method, okay? And what I started doing is I found out that people actually listen when they've been heard. So I wanted to get people to talk. I wanted to get the students engaged by them telling me what they wanted. So as we look at our careers and how we've gotten to where we are, and the people that have helped us get here, they listened to us. And we were able to derive lessons and values from them through their patience and understanding. And with the group of people coming in today, and you were mentioning getting turned down on your job offers. And that is, are we listening? And it is a range of how do we sell and what are we selling to candidates coming in. It isn't just about the comp anymore. It isn't just about the job content. It's about much broader offering of opportunities. You have a number of people coming in. You said 250 developers. So what is it that they're looking for in their career? What are their challenges? What are their questions? What is it they're hoping to achieve? What do you think, some of their mental states are? What is it that they could learn from a group like this?
From a group like this?
Mm-hmm.
I think from a group like this, just kind of like what's, like a bigger picture of the technology. I think as a developer, you have a very sort of focused, like I use these tools, I do this. You don't necessarily see how that ties into like the overall organization or the overall just technical landscape. So, and I think that's something that, a group like this definitely brings is like, we have a bigger view. You talk about the historical aspect of it. I think that's important. Knowing where you're coming from really kind of shows where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
The changes that you see, being able to project where those are going to be, stuff like that.
So when we take a look at newer people coming in and looking at there can be a gap, okay, between our understanding of what their knowledge is or interests are and what it is that they need to know. Has anybody faced that struggle?
I've faced it many times. The thing that I would say is the consistent thing from the first day I started in IT on is understanding that your outcomes and your alignment always needs to be on the business side. If we're not solving business problems, we're not doing the work that we need to be doing. The technologies are side effects and interesting tools that are beneficial, but if we're not asking appropriate questions as IT professionals to make sure that we're serving business appropriately, that alignment problem is gonna, my dad used to talk about that alignment problem when he was running the second mainframe in Indianapolis and they were doing nothing more than printing insurance bills once a month. That they weren't, the business didn't understand what they were doing and always asked for more without really understanding. And they were, and the IT teams were not even showing vision. And I see those same problems today.
Amen.
So how do we have value to offer, and I think it is that bigger picture. Anybody have any examples of how they've done that with people coming into technology today? We had a number of people that said they were teachers, okay? So we are here giving example and witness to the people coming into IT. So they are watching us, we are teaching. Is it intentional? So where have we been intentional about engaging the, and you heard Mike talk about all the onboarding and all the relationship development and all the interest and need and success and importance about creating those relationships early on. Are we doing those? We are doing those. So what are some examples of where people have been successful doing that?
So I see success on my team, and I've got a small team of developers, and when I really echo what Doug was saying with teaching developers that it's all about what's going on the business side. We've got to meet the business need. And I know that I'm having some success there when my developers are the ones asking, well, what's the business need for that?
Mm-hmm.
How is the business going to use that?
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And, you know, being able to put it in context, I think is, that's important for us to hear, is how can we be most valuable to the new people coming in? And taking a look at our own experiences is when we started our own careers, you know, reflecting on the people that were mentoring us, what made a difference? So looking on our past, who are the people that made a difference in our careers, and what is it that we were able to glean from them that really helped promote us? So again, some of us looking at the beginning of our careers, what were some of the best lessons we learned when we started?
Well, I'll take a stab
Yeah.
at this. I don't think I can claim success.
Mm-hmm.
Very much, actually. But I do think there's value in the mentorship thing that's been brought up. And also, I think in this day and age, reverse mentorship, because I think that's how that hearing starts to kind of happen.
And how do you define reverse mentorship?
And it's for me, it's one-on-ones with those staff people, really trying to get to know them, but also trying to see what their needs are. But
Mhm.
I can tell you, when I start talking about how most of the things I have to deal with never came to me in a college course or a certification sheet.
Right.
I mean, I just never did. It's people goo, and it's some of the things are like, here's some things you can do to help in this situation, and here's some things you can help that I can help you with, kind of thing. To me, I have found more receptivity to that kind of thing than I'm going to teach you how you should do whatever.
I think it is that real time opportunity that we have when people, when they make a mistake, okay? When they do something well, when they have a question, when we can put it in context, when we can give them the business case. So I think the opportunity we have to reinforce what's going on every time we meet with people, saying, that was a good meeting. I liked your agenda. You handled that question well. That was a good question you asked. That was a good design. When that failed, did you realize the failover worked so the users didn't even know it? So us taking a mental picture of every frame going on and recognizing every time we see something going right or going wrong is an opportunity to go back to the source and let that person know you're on the right track. You're in a safe environment. I appreciated that detail. Your fine points you made on the email, the communication, the design, those are excellent. We have that opportunity to do that day in and day out. And when we take those, we can become the leader, we can become the role model that people are really looking for. We're tribal in nature, and we want to make sure that we're safe. And by us telling people who are under our care and around our circles that they're on the right track is the best thing to create that team environment. In our daily routines, as you go about, again, over the next day and, the rest of the week, recognize, where did you get your skills? When you say, I have the tenacity I know I have to finish this today. This was really difficult to troubleshoot. Who was it that gave you that gift? Okay? And it could be parents that just embedded in us the hard work. It could be relatives or friends that say tenacity matters. And realize that people are watching how we run meetings, how we make difficult decisions, manage our schedules, interact with executives, peers, subordinates, vendors, clients, customers. They watch how we troubleshoot problems, how we strategize and budget, plan and execute, communicate and collaborate. So as we're doing those things, we can highlight to people where we learned them and some of the techniques. And people are also watching, how do we dress, the car we drove, how we spend our money, how we spend our time, the value that we place on family and friends, and how we learn and how we teach. So all of us are learners and teachers, and the more that we can make that intentional, the better our teams are going to be. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. I really appreciate that. The asking questions, the making people feel comfortable having discussions. One of the big lessons I learned was from Vince Sheehan, who, before he passed, was the CIO of the IU School of Medicine. I worked for him at Methodist Hospital. He reminded us every day to smile and to make people feel comfortable and not to try to impress them with how much we knew. And if I could live by those words alone, I'd be a much better service provider for everybody. He also had a great saying, you do a good job, you get to keep it. So we all have our mentors, right? Thank you so much for coming today. Please mark your calendar for the October the 27th happy hour. That's for you. That's to get together and enjoy each other's company for a change. No lectures, no nothing, just for fun. Also, those of you who are IT leaders, please make sure you come to our October 4th event. That we will discuss a number of different issues around complexity. And then finally, November 15th with Dimple Shaw and Glenn Keller should be a great event as well. Thank you for coming. Have a great day.